Hi guys, we're back, and this time I'll have beer. So hopefully the Grendel slash Druge slash Briars, delete is appropriate. Don't break the stream. Reaction success. This is how you know this is the after show, because I don't need to worry about this now. So hopefully it will go well. If you can't hear us, please let us know in the chat. So the normal disclaimer as before, which is this is a player stream and we're not associated with the lovely guys at Profound Decisions who make the lovely game that we run around in a field 3 times a year when we're allowed to. So if everything we say might not be correct, so check the wiki or email PD if you've got any questions. That's pretty much our disclaimer. I'm Martin. I play Travid, who is the proxy for Varushkan. And I'm going to be the guy who's slowly going to get more and more stressed as things keep crashing today. And Matt, would like to introduce yourself also.
Hi, I'm Matt. I play Casper. I'm the proxy for Holberg. I was part of the Empress's team, and I work with the Imperial offices sometimes as well.
And Kat?
Hi, I'm Kat. I play Lori. I'm Navarr, and I proxy for Herkinia. I have been for about a year.
Rosa?
My name is Rosa. I play Vesna Borkovna Duskovich, or Sparrow, as she's more commonly known. And I have proxied for a few of the senators in Varushka, but I am, at the moment, only proxying for Mikarova.
I'm James.
Hi, I'm James. I play Adric Fairevering. I'm the proxy senator for Astalat.
Ross?
Hi, I'm Ross. I play Alexios Zembris Ivraqueza, or just Alexios.
Freaking feeble.
I am the proxy senator for Sakura. Hey, leave the names out of it.
I'm Jason.
Martin, Jason's muted.
Oh,
Jason's muted.
No!
Straight off
It
the bat.
begins!
It's because you're a leaguer.
You're fine. Right, hang on. Let me add you again. All right, who are we blaming this time? Are we going to blame the Druge, the Grendel?
Druge.
Yeah.
Jason,
Sounded probable.
Jason, do you mind giving us a go?
No.
Let's start from the beginning. Hopefully they can hear us.
My spy says you're all good.
See if we can sound. Okay, so hello. I'm Jason. I play Gancio de Catazar, currently proxy for Sarvos, but like Rose's character, I've been passed around like a bad ring and have previously been proxy for Temeshwar as well. Furthermore, the Druge must be destroyed.
So, a very quick thing for the chat. If you've got any questions, start your post with question so we can find it. We'll try and get through as many as we can, but we'll try our best. Who wants to explain what a proxy does?
Everything that a senator does, but backwards and in heels.
And correct. That's the important thing.
Yeah, basically.
So one question that came up, which is makes me laugh. Where's it gone? Apart from the fun of always finding out where my character is, I don't know where I am half the time. Where is it gone? There was a lovely one about I forgot who raised it, but is being a proxy a full-time job?
Yes.
Depends on your senator.
Yes.
It depends on your senator, yes, and it doesn't stop us wearing 5 hats.
I think that's one thing to actually know. Being a proxy isn't an official hat in the game. So you can technically... Go on.
it isn't an official hat, but legally you have to be in a position where you could legally be the position that you are a proxy for. So if you're not legally eligible to be senator of whatever territory you're a proxy senator for, that's not a legal proxy.
Oh, I wasn't aware of that. See, learn everything
Which
new.
means that a proxy cannot hold another imperial title, because then they're not eligible to hold a second imperial title.
There, see? Damn, my ambitions to...
Yeah.
I don't have any ambitions. My ambition is to survive an event, to be honest. What's the most
My ambition is to come out with only 5 blisters.
What's the most common task that your senator hands off to you? Boring meetings.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's happened.
Could you just go find this person for me?
Sorry?
Like, could you just go find this person? Could you go pass this message on? Or do you know where that person is? No, I've spent half the day looking. I don't know.
I think for me, one of the ones that I get asked almost every session, every event, is I'm the one that actually writes up my senator's motion. And then usually the one not often is to go find the second and then hand it into the hub in time.
I've had a lot of... Sorry, I've had a lot of very last minute, like, senate's in 10 minutes and I have this other thing, because Yulia's very busy, the senator for Mikarova. It's like, can you just run in and do this? With like, and you got to just put your pipe down and run.
I once had my senator tag me in as Senate was being called and the Senate Guard were closing Senate, and I had zero idea what motions were on the floor, and I was having to play the whole thing by ear, and yeah, it was a little stressful, but it was fun.
I think with both of my previous my senators, it has, I say previous, she hasn't fired me yet. It's basically been, here is this problem, this problem, and this problem, solve. Okay.
One of the really boring ones that I get given, I've had to do, I think, every session is, we need to appoint someone to this sinecure. We've already picked them, but we're all incredibly busy. So all the proxies are going to go to the hub and basically make it official with the civil service. Go.
Yeah.
See, I don't mind doing that, because when I'm going to the hub, I tend to find people I need to see anyway.
100%.
So
yeah.
I kind of kill 2 birds with 1 stone with that.
So, what does a normal event look like for you guys?
Motion, constant motion. I don't have, because one of the things for me about being a proxy is I don't have a staff, and I have a very small guild who are usually often doing their own thing. So I have to be taken and sat down by people, because otherwise every second I am going to see someone trying to put out a fire, trying to get this motion, that motion sorted out. So yeah, for me, it's always moving. Buy good boots is my advice.
Yeah.
I'm sure we're not unique, but in Navarr we're very lucky that as a Senate group, if like we work very closely together. So there's a lot of sharing of sort of plot, like all problems. I mean, I spend most of my time annoying Luke, who plays the senator who I'm proxy for, and Kat. And if at least once an event, if she hasn't failed to hit me, it means I've not been doing a very good job. So
last time I threatened to paralyze you because you wouldn't go to the hub.
But there is an element. You're right, Joseph, about the fact that we don't have staff or inherently have that support network from the purpose of the title. But at least from the VAR point of view, there is a support network within the nation to help you do what you need to do. If anyone in chat is interested in proxying or doing any Senate position, yes, some of it is a solo game. Like if you're going to go for a certain hat and there's only one person hat, none of them are unsupported. Every single one has got a group behind them. So basically, get stuck in. And one thing that I keep telling people is, you can't be wrong. And if you are, that's fun roleplay, right? So just don't worry about it and just get involved. And if in doubt, come and have an argument with me, and then I'll threaten to set cat on you, and then you'd be surprised how many arguments stop because cats are scary.
I'm a 5'4" disabled Cambion. Why is that scary? I couldn't run after you. If you're ever scared of me, just run. I can't follow you.
I also find that at least with all of the senators I've worked with, you'll be quite unlucky to find a senator that's an OC dick about things if you do things wrong. So I think it was last event, I was getting really, really flustered because I knew my senator was looking for me and she couldn't find me and someone had said this, that, and the other. And I was panicking because I was really upset because I was like, oh God, she's going to think I've done a horrible job. She's going to hate me. And then I found her. And she could see that I was visibly quite upset, and she was just like, just calm down, it's fine, go do the thing, it's totally all right. And I just felt so much better about it. And I think as well, both IC and OC, even when you fuck up a little bit, even when you mess up a little bit like that, people will generally be nice about it, because at the end of the day, even though it's important dressing up in a field, it's still dressing up in a field, and they're not going to be too mean about it, so it's okay to make mistakes.
So Forlorn Hope has said, it sounds like a lot of work. What makes it fun?
I think for me, I've always played, like, my LARP career, I started playing vampire LARPs. I've always been involved in political games. So it's one of those things where that's what I enjoy. I enjoy the feeling and dealing. I get to meet so many new people constantly. I get to meet at least about half a dozen new characters almost every event at minimum, just through my job. So a big part of it is I'm out on the field constantly, and there's always something I can get involved in.
I absolutely second that. So I'm chair of my university LARP society, and we mainly run a vampire game, and it's exactly the same. No, but it's, if you like a political game and you sort of thrive off that sort of thing, and talking to lots of people and seeing how the things all sort of tick together in the sort of political sphere of the game, it's you can't really get any more sort of up close and personal to it than proxying or being a senator. It's bomb. I love bureaucracy.
I enjoy it because of the challenge of it. Because I'm not a public speaking sort of. I'm the out of as out of character sort of. I'm the backstage person. I'm the one who prefers to sort of support people and doing that sort of thing.
Run the stream.
Well, I did not want to be hosting that, and they forced me.
It was your idea.
Yeah, but that's different. It's like, oh, I'll sort it out, and someone else can do the fun stuff. But what I like about the game is that it forces you to be that support role and be very visible, but also you're seeing the impact of your contributions quite quickly. So when you're doing things, for people who have not done Empire before, think of each weekend kind of like an episode of a TV show, where there is a plot that's going through the weekend, and there is an ending to that story. But there are obviously lots of overarching parts that go over the season, the whole series, if you like. But seeing the little bits that you've done to support certain people to get the title they wanted, or to get something built, or for me, that's what I find fun. I find fun. My dream would be to sit on my arse doing nothing, be Teflon for plot, and just bounce it off to other people and watch them have fun with it, because that's where I get my enjoyment. Also, it means they can enjoy a drink.
I think the reference to like a TV show is really important there as well, because I think Natalie said earlier that your game comes first, and the thing that's so lovely to Senate Game about me is that I will go and have a political discussion, and in my head I'm Littlefinger screwing over someone else in another nation, and that feeling of being that political, powerful, walking out the tent with like a smug look, it's such a lovely feeling that it doesn't feel like work. I think if Senate feels like work, there's other ways to kind of enjoy it. The game, and everything you do is fun if you make it fun.
It's probably less like a TV episode and more like a season of TV, because you've got so many different threads, and like your game is kind of a collection of plot threads, and then there's a bunch of different people who all have their own kind of collection of plot threads, and they might intersect or they might run parallel, or you might not see them all weekend long. And it constantly amazes me, the stuff I hear about that I have gone nowhere near, that's just awesome plot stuff that's happening completely somewhere else in a field.
Martin,
Martin, you're muted.
Someone just said it's a miracle.
Yes, I did notice that.
While he's muted, my favorite thing about being a proxy is just generally that I'm really nosy, and I like hearing everything that's going on. And my character's the same. She, like, before she started the proxy thing, she just liked listening to people talk and people's stories, and then just passing those on. She's an awful gossip. It's good fun.
For me, it's I love most. The things I love most are one, audacious things. It's a great place to do audacious things. Audacity is not a virtue; that is a Grendel heresy. But and try and pull off wild, stupid things like renaming your entire city and trying to curse a hag and stuff like that. But also just being a bastard. Being a proxy is a fantastic opportunity to play a cutthroat backroom bastard. I think I can get away with that on Twitch.
It's fine. It's post Watershed.
Yeah.
Nothing.
Singing really helps there, Martin. If you sing, they're
It
more
does.
likely to hear you.
Yeah.
But
I don't think they hear you.
the resistance to sing anti-Briar songs is real.
Whoa!
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. He's talking smack about Briars.
He's being icy racist on our own screen.
I thought we were
two
keeping
Briars
the
in this
opinion.
hall.
Yeah,
It's like being in the Marches.
Come
Oh,
on.
you're back. You're back, Martin.
You're back.
Yeah, Martin, say all of that again.
Yeah. Say it again.
Briars are lovely, innocent people, and if anyone disagrees with me, are clearly anti-Briar.
Fight us.
We'll both find a welcome home in the
There we
Marches.
are. Awesome. Well, so one question that came up, which there was a myth about proxies, and I think we need to set it right. Just to check, as proxies, do we go and bitch about our senators behind their back?
No, we bitch to their faces.
Yes,
Yeah.
we bitch the
And that's the
as
myth.
well. It's like
It depends on your senator.
When
It
we
really
can
depends on the
find
senator.
them.
Yeah, when we can find them.
when we can find them.
That's
Yeah.
I actually do bitch about my senator behind her back. Normally when I'm walking across a muddy field in the middle of the pitch bloody black, trying to find her again.
I would never bitch about Yulia because I see and OC think she's amazing. But I'm sure there are other senators on the field that deserve having some smack talked about them.
I don't vocalise my disapproval of Lord Beaumont.
No, you just radiate it.
As a lovely yo folk, I know my place. However, he can tell by my facial expressions usually.
I have definitely bitched about my senators, which may or may not have been part of an elaborate political game.
The League.
The League!
Southern
We might be
League.
trying to lie.
Southern League. Northern League, much more practical.
I don't really bitch about
We
mine.
are the
I have
most-
threatened him several times, though.
I think if you don't bitch about your senator, you're doing it wrong. I mean, that's part of it. Part of it is your eye roll behind their back when you're in the viewing gallery. Go, really? Going for that one? All right, fine. That's my trick. What's the one thing you wish your senator did less of? And I'm going to end that say, or more of. And that is from a person whose name I don't recognise, but I'm sure is absolutely lovely and is not going to kill me. So, yeah.
I wish my senator would wear a very large bell. Because she has a gaggle of children and a guide dog, and I still manage to lose her. I don't understand how she does it. It's literally you take your eyes off her and she's somewhere else.
I think that I wish that my senator wouldn't go through the gate on a skirmish while still really badly injured without getting himself healed first.
I think my one.
Yes, I'm calling you out, David.
What I wish my senator did less of: winning the elections. But more of, I can't obviously speak for everyone else, but my senator, the senator who I proxy is great. I mean, it is definitely a team effort in trying to get things done, so I can't really fault him for it. I mean, it'd be nice if he could laugh at my bad dad jokes occasionally. I think that's what he should do more of.
See, interestingly, like on an OC level, I don't think there's anything I want my senator to do less or more of. Because all the hijinks he gets up to and all the nonsense that I get involved in, I absolutely love it on an OC level. I might be rolling my eyes, but OC, whenever I hear what he's done or what he said, I love it.
Yeah, I'm more on this side of James. I think what me and my senator do is that we both have our own motion and we'll drive it individually and then kind of catch up at the end. So if my senator did any more or any less, I think it would take away from my own game. So it's about having that healthy balance, I think, and the relationship and staff that we were speaking about earlier.
Agreed with both of my previous again, not previous. She hasn't fired me yet. Senators. It's being proxy has almost been like a co-senator. There's been a quite good division of labor in terms of getting shit done. Stuff done. Damn it. Twitch. But it's so yeah, I wouldn't really want them to do any more or less because then I would either be utterly overworked or just not have as much to do.
So that's one thing we haven't actually touched on. Actually, is why did you all get into proxying, or how did you get involved in proxying?
So for me, when my character originally started in Wintermark, and when I started with the game, everyone in my hall had their own aspect of what the game they were interested in, be it Conclave or the Synod. No one had an interest in the Senate, so I took it myself. It's something to do as a new player, just go watch Senate. And that became a habit, and then I got interested in it, and I started to know some of the movers and shakers, and I just kind of got almost like osmosed into being a proxy. By basically going, right, you know what you're doing, you seem to have a decent head on your shoulders, come be my proxy.
In Varushka, we have a lot of Senate seats, and quite a small player base. So I get the feeling that a lot of senators do struggle to find proxies to some extent. That could be me completely misjudging it, just because I ended up as a lot of people's proxy. But basically, it was really as simple as Yulia coming to the hearth, which is the big communal space, just rocking up and saying, I have had this Senate seat this year for 2 seasons, and no one has volunteered to be my proxy. Can someone just come and help me, please? And I was like, yeah, 100%. And then I started being like, I'm going to be the best proxy ever. And so I started going. I started every time there was a Senate, I'd watch from the viewing gallery and I'd take notes. And then various other Varushkan senators started coming up to me being like, oh, yeah, I can see that you watch Senate. Do you want to be my proxy too? Are you interested in Senate? And I'm like, yeah, absolutely, sure. And then it just sort of accumulated. And we've since had to have a conversation. But yeah, sometimes it can just be as simple as going up to the relevant senator and just being like, hey, do you have a proxy, or do you want a proxy? Or are you not satisfied with your current proxy, as the case was one?
Well, it's 100% is like of any title in the game. Go up and ask, or take it. You know, it's a big thing. Go on, Jason.
Okay. So I became a proxy because I am unelectable. This was the year of 3 Temeshwar elections when this started, after a disastrous battle on, was it Ryan or Zed? I forget which, killed the recently re-elected senator of Temeshwar and his entire voting bloc. And suddenly the seat was up for grabs. There were, I think, 4 of us all going for it. I lost horrendously. And then kind of chased after the winner and went, so do you want some help? I'm utterly unelectable. No sane person would make me a senator, but that's why it's good to become a proxy.
For me, the senator for Hyrcania was standing, and he was standing unopposed. No one else would stand. And at the time, I was very suspicious of him due to certain icy political things, and stood up and said, to quote, "Fuck it, I'll stand." Sorry for the swearing.
It's a quote, it's fine.
And afterwards, I lost, obviously. And afterwards, Riz was like, "Do you want to be my proxy?" And I thought about it for a bit and eventually decided, yes.
Well, that's what happened to me. So Luke was running unopposed. So I was very much like, no one should run unopposed for things. Where's the fun?
Yeah.
Where's the game in it? You know, because it's a bit unfair on Luke for just going, yeah, that's me, and not having that game of fighting for the ball. Obviously, I lost his Astral Seeks. No one knew who I was, but I turned to him afterwards. Went, so I'm your proxy now, right? And I've been annoying him ever since, basically. But yeah, I didn't intend to fall into the Senate game. That wasn't my character intention originally, but that's how it goes in the game, really, isn't it?
Oh, I swore. Oh, this because I traditionally make very political characters, and I was like, no, at Empire, there is no way I am making a political character. It's not going to happen. And then it did. It always does. I just fall into it.
Empire politics is best politics game, though. Like,
honestly,
the sheer scale of it, the impact of those choices. It's like political crack. It really is.
Absolutely.
Oh, it's great.
Also, there's more anonymity with it than like a pub LARP. So sometimes there's less hurt feelings.
That is one good thing about the game.
Interesting. Yeah, I think a big thing about like Empire compared to pub LARP is the pub LARPs I was in. You would often have an argument with someone IC, and then you wouldn't see them for a while. Whereas at Empire, you'll see them for the weekend. You can sit down and actually have a chat. You can work things out so there's less bad blood, unless you want that. Having IC bad blood is absolutely amazing. But I think if it's seen to be completely IC, people don't take it as so much OC.
Is there any particular areas of the game that you enjoy? You know, is there a particular aspects of the political game or even non-political game in Empire that you enjoy? Like that's where you focus on each game.
So I've recently switched to having a congregation. I've had a congregation for a couple of seasons now, and the Synod game is delicious. It's not a political game in the same way that the Senate is, because it's so diverse and it's so spread out, but you get that same kind of the choice of words is significant, trying to find the movers and shakers to kind of nudge the levers into place. You get all that, but over a wider scale with a much bigger target audience. So it's the same game, just in a very different direction, and I get the same buzz that I do from Synod.
I count this as sort of political game, but there's multiple aspects to it. So I'm part of a group of Briars who are sort of campaigning against Briar discrimination, and we were affectionately known as the Briart, which I quite like, and I really enjoy that because that's really exciting, and there's so many different avenues you can take that. So we have previously taken it through various synod routes and various national and virtual assemblies. We're going to start sort of etching it towards Senate. And it's basically just trying to cover as many bases as possible. And that is, I find that really, really interesting because it's you're leading a fantasy civil rights movement. And that's really cool. And there's so many dimensions for it. Like, I'm a philosophy student, and I like sort of coming up with various sort of abstract arguments about why tree people should have rights and shouldn't be discriminated against for being tree people, and I just find that absolutely wacky and completely wonderful. And it's fun how many like different you can, and it's like, oh well, this doesn't work, so I'm going to start nudging my agenda over here, and oh, I've befriended these people, this is nice, maybe they'll support tree people rights. And Ross was talking about like the little finger moment. It's like, I sort of get that. That's really, really fun. But it's with to avoid discrimination for tree people, you know, as you do. Actually.
I think what's always going to keep me hooked on Senate game is just when you're on the Senate floor. I think it's like such a basic answer, but I love getting there earlier. And every senator and proxies on the floor, like shouting, screaming, "Oh, I need to speak to you quickly. Oh, I didn't get your opinion." And then just that, you know, seeing the whole room shift to the right, whole room shift to the left. It's just like actually being in there. It's like when it all starts to pay off, and it's so immersive every time. It just really keeps me hooked.
Because a lot of the game isn't in the Senate building. A lot of it is the meetings and conversations we have outside. And then, right, there's something about going in the viewing gallery and just seeing the debate happen, and then just seeing the shift and going, we made that happen. Awesome.
I'd rank a good senator has done. No, you go, Jason.
But no, that's the thing I love about it. I love, like I said before about Audacity, be it playing the politics game, like it can be about trying to achieve small beneficial things, or it can be about trying to get like really big stuff done. One of the things I love about the religion in Empire is the way that the virtues are all built quite action derived. My character is an ambition dedicant, so like the way that that's built, you have one big thing you're trying to do, and it's ludicrously impossible. And every step you take closer to that requires so much effort. It's actually really rewarding as a result. And that's there's a joy in just constantly running around, maneuvering, trying to make the impossible happen. Because every step you get closer, you get an amazing sense of, well, flip, that actually worked. Or the crashing, damn you, Lizabetta. Definitely two of my bloody ports.
We're gonna get into a fight. It won't be pretty.
It won't.
Oh, you muted again.
Not again.
No. He's talking about spreadsheets. He loves his spreadsheets.
It's a really riveting conversation.
Hey, I love spreadsheets too.
Yeah. While Martin gets himself sorted, the point I was saying earlier was a good senator will have 95% of their work done before the motion even hits the Senate floor. They should have a good chunk of the votes for or against already decided, which we help in doing by facilitating the movement of information and what's coming up and such.
Yeah, I think Ruth said that on the previous stream.
Yes.
Like if you're doing your job right, the motion's already decided before it hits the floor.
Yeah.
That's probably my favorite part about it. I like the actual talking before you ever hit the Senate floor. Like, even if I'm not taking part in the conversations, I like eavesdropping on them.
Can you hear me, chat?
Do you have him back, chat? Can you hear him?
It was a very informed and intelligent conversation, I promise you.
Yep, you're back.
We can hear you.
Yes!
Wait, what?
No, I think
What's
they're
that?
being.
No, they're being a
They're being
shit.
cheeky.
Come on, chat!
Yeah.
It's Alexius, I'm being nice, I promise.
Um,
Unfortunately, yes, Alison.
yeah.
Wow.
Such a supportive crowd.
Oh, it's great, isn't it? I mean, it is like being on the field. Well, it's a question. I don't know that much about. I know a little bit about the Freeborn and as a nation because I do spend a lot of time in Fast Coast for reasons, but I don't know much about. Yeah, Fast Club. But I don't know much about Varushka. Rose, do you mind sort of telling us a bit about Varushka?
Oh, Varushka in general, or just the Varushkan Senate elections? Because the Varushkan Senate elections are a nightmare.
How do they work? I don't actually know.
Right. Okay. So the way Varushkan, because I've stood for a few, the way Varushkan Senate elections work is you stand and you go into a room and it's filled with the wise ones. I think that's what they're called. I haven't played in a while. My brain's falling out. But generally, the sort of wise elders of Varushka, and they're blindfolded. So in theory, they sort of don't know who you are. But they do. And they ask you 3 questions that they have picked from. Generally, it's a sort of fun tradition that the children select the questions. And they ask you questions, but they're very sort of philosophical, sort of. They're supposed to, I imagine, sort of test your spirit and your sort of inherent virtue. So they're questions like, our enemy's friend is an axe we can wield. How should we wield it? That was a question that we got. Someone was also asked to, what other animal should be virtuous and why? That sort of thing. They're very sort of, they're like very deep questions. Well, they are deep. But the thing is they're impossible to revise for. They're impossible to sort of study up on. It's. I don't know how. Basically, it's something I personally struggle on, and that's why I'm like, I will never be elected, because especially as a Briar who thinks of things in a very super direct way. My character does struggle. Sparrow does struggle with it, but I feel like it's very different to a lot of other nations where we will ask you questions based on like purely political things or purely virtuous things, and if you ask the right people and play the right thing, you can generally sort of get a rough idea of what you should say. In Varushka, that is still doable depending on how much you know about, say, like the Varushkan brief and various Varushkan traditions. But I think it is generally a bit harder. But it's really, really fun and quite spooky, as all things in Varushka are. Varushka in general, I came in with I've only been playing for a year, and I came in with a bunch of people from my university, and we sort of picked Varushka somewhat at random. But I think it is one of the absolute best nations, especially for new players, because there's such a communal element, and I think it's sort of inherent to the brief in a way that it isn't for some nations, that everyone does sort of want to look out for each other and elevate each other, and everyone knows each other in Varushka, at least by sort of facial recognition, not by name, because our names are long and complicated. But yeah, it is a delightful nation that needs more hype, and the players are absolutely lovely.
They are.
That's my plug.
Does anyone else want to plug their nations?
I could go through how Dawn does our elections. The Daunish election has recently changed. It used to be essentially a big fight to pick the winner. Now each candidate has to get a favour token from every eligible noble from their territory, and then whoever has the most wins. A lot of the Daunish nobles will hand it over because through fealty or through favours, or they'll set a challenge. Whoever does X will get my favour before the election. So it's quite interesting to see the power blocks that move around, because it's the way it's kind of done. Dawn, I started off in Wintermark and I absolutely love Dawn. I still love Wintermark, but Dawn is where my kind of heart is, because we wear our heart on the sleeve, which, being a Briar, is super easy as well. Because I'm playing up the Briar stereotypes and the Daunish stereotypes. We laugh, we love, we cry amazingly. And we also confuse every other nation in the Empire with our flubbers. Because we have our own language.
Not just the one.
Oh no. Everyone's got their own flower code. Ask in the field about the time someone tried to a leaguer tried to proposition a Daunish woman with a bouquet of, I think it was a dozen black and a dozen red roses. That was quite the story.
Okay.
Oh yes. Oh yes. It was a fantastic.
This means nothing to me.
Misunderstanding cultural traditions. With that particular house's flower codes, the more you mean, the more roses you give, the less what you're implying. And they basically said, I want to have a quick shag and then murder your entire family.
As you do.
It went poorly.
Delicate.
Yes. League elections. I love league elections because they are 50% genuine speech making and trying to inspire people, and 50% backroom dealing. Because like the last election I was part of, and I did stand because why not? There was a certain amount of standing up and being inspiring and saying the inspiring thing, and the most inspiring person, my senator, did actually get the job. But also, after all of the inspiring speeches, the heads of various guilds then sat down and went, "Okay, so what will you give me for our collective vote?" And it's very, it was not quite as mercenary as the Brass Coast in that way, but it was very cheerfully open.
So the way leaguish elections work, every business owner in a particular city at the start of the event where their senator will be elected gets given a bond, an IC certificate, and that bond has a number of votes on it that changes depending on how upgraded their business is. And at the there is an election period which is about 2 hours on a Saturday, and all the electioneering is supposed to happen during those 2 hours, but in reality it gets started pretty much the moment everyone hits the field that weekend. And at the end of the election period, the person with the most value of votes in bonds in their hands wins the election. So we've had, over the course of the 5-6 years I've been playing in the league, there have been a number of 11th hour upsets where somebody showed up to the election with quite a thin wodge, and then people have just appeared out of nowhere and like started pulling wodges of votes out from where they've been hidden, because nobody wants to show during those 2 hours how well or how poorly you're doing. And often when you're making deals with people for them to give you the number of bond certificates they've put together, you don't know how many certificates they've got because they probably won't tell you. So
that is sorry.
Then
no, go on.
Sorry. Then there's the problem of folding.
One
vote, one sorry. Delays.
No, you go.
Oh, yeah, I was just saying there's the problem of folding where one candidate who, if two candidates would both lose to a third, sometimes they'll just go, do you like who's got more votes? I have. I be your proxy? Yeah, sure. Combine your votes, and then boom, that person's won.
Yep, and often, a couple of times now, I have gone into an election on the explicit understanding that whichever of the two of us who is behind the other 10 minutes before the counting hands the wodge over to the other person and is their proxy. And that's the deal we've made Friday night. Because that's Leagueish elections for you.
That is why I think like Varushkan elections seem so different to all other election systems I've heard of, just because it's kind of impossible to do backroom dealing. Oh, sorry.
Just in case, guys, I've literally just come back in after sorting myself out, and I've got an attempt to reconnect message. So hopefully we're still streaming. So
it still looks like we're streaming.
Awesome.
Yeah, I think
people are still talking. In
awesome.
chat.
I'll be back within a second then.
Yeah, we're still streaming.
Yep.
Yeah, still streaming.
Because it seems almost impossible to do sort of background dealings, because I feel like every other nation, it appears, and correct me if I'm wrong, but there is some sort of priority that the nation has, or that nation's electorate has, that you can maybe appeal to, or there's a sort of or that nation is represented by a particular group. In Varushkan, there kind of isn't that. You can appeal to the Wise Ones Council, but that's very hard to do, because by their inherent job is asking the difficult questions and making sure that basically you have the correct or the most correct answers. They don't really have a political presence as such, so it's very hard to do. It's almost impossible to do backroom deals unless everyone else is doing backroom deals, and that's how they get elected, and I'm sort of just on the outside looking in.
Is it, Rosa, is it the Wise Ones that make the final decision?
Yes.
As a group, so they kind of vote.
As far as I'm aware, I think I don't know whether or not they discuss it as a collective or vote, because I think it's supposed to be sort of intentionally somewhat shady, not shady, mysterious. But it's they do decide it.
But could you
James,
not get the Wise Ones on side ahead of time?
In theory, you could. You see, you're trying to apply League logic to Varushkan customs here. In theory,
I just call it logic.
In theory, yes, you could, and I'm sure people do that, and maybe I am just the idiot on the outside looking in. But I kind of feel like if you did go up to the Wise Ones and say, "Oh, I'll give you X, Y, and Z if you approve me," I can't see that going down very well, because it does sort of just go against their sort of brief and essence.
I was going to say, Rosa, are the Wise Ones players or NPCs?
Players.
Cool.
Yeah.
One of the things I really like about a lot of the Empire voting mechanics is that for a vast majority of them, people are disenfranchised in some way. For example, if you're in the League, you don't have a business, you don't get a vote.
Yeah.
In Dawn, if you're not a noble, you don't get a vote. I think Navarr, it's everybody, and in Wintermark, it's everybody. And I think they're the only two that don't have some sort of disenfranchisement to part of the player base.
Literally in Navarr, you stand up, you make a speech, and then people line up. Oh, here he is.
There he is.
Guess who's back in the house? Martin.
Hello.
Yeah, the product decided to go, you're now on the free tier because you stream too much. Yeah, bug off. We're fine. We're back. Tech support. Damn. Back at the Grendel. We can say that.
Death to the British.
Where were we?
And furthermore, the
Where
Druids
were we?
was
What did I miss?
destroyed.
I'm sorry.
We were
Thank
talking
you.
about voting systems, and I think we just finished
Oh.
discussing Varushka.
Fascination.
Kat, you were saying that Navarr was just one person, one vote.
Yeah, basically what it is,
So strange.
you have to be from the territory that the senator is being elected for. Whoever wants to stand, stands, makes a speech, and then you all just line up behind your candidate. And you're not allowed, if you're standing, you're not allowed to turn around and see how many people voted for you until the end. It's a rule, honest.
We genuinely use the single transferable single transferable voting method.
Oh, you should
Which
do it as a
means that-
foot race. Then you could do it as first past the post.
Oh,
2 elephants and a symbol fall off a cliff.
Oh.
Wintermark has something quite similar.
They put a ring in, right?
They put a ring in,
Yeah,
except
didn't you
it's not the
put
person
coins in
from
the
the
bag?
territory. Yeah, but it's not the person from the territory. So if the senator for Semersuak is up, only Suak get to vote whether they live in Semersuak or not. So when I was playing Lineaged, because Wintermark, it was a Steiner, so I got to vote for Hanmark, even though I didn't live in Hanmark. You vote for which one of your traditional homes is.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah, for us it's just where
does
your
that mean-
resource is.
Does it mean that? Does that mean that an entire Wintermark, like one of the Wintermark tribes right now, just is entirely disenfranchised because they don't have a territory?
Yes.
Or am I being? Yep.
Much like everybody in the
Oh,
Brass
dear.
Coast who lives in Faroz.
Hey, come on, man. It's still recent.
Too
this
soon?
is still-
Too
Too soon,
soon!
man. Too soon. I
Too
went
soon?
to speak to the I spoke to the Eurozone senator when we were talking about seeding, and I just went to speak to him. I was like, I need to speak about Faroz, and he just sighed. He went, "Yeah, welcome to our boat." And I was like, but yeah, on the topic of like the elections, the freeborn, I think what James was saying about having that like removal, I sometimes feel like the system can be not unfair, but very like, is elitist the right word in terms of bidding? Because it's just like if you're a new player like looking to get into the game and you've got your 18 rings and some liao, you're like, yeah, I'm going to bid for a senator seat, and then someone drops 25 thrones on you, you're like, oh no. But I think like what Ruth said in the last stream about getting people to maybe like if they support you to donate, that's a really interesting like concept in terms of money and how money was the status in the coast. I love the voting system in the freeborn.
Well, the thing to bear in mind now is
Your
right,
nation's
with-
voting system.
No, go on.
Sorry, no, you. Okay, I was saying your nation's voting system has the most in common with just any public bourse auction. It's actually quite impressive watching the differences, and it suffers from the same weaknesses. You are at the mercy of entrenched power blocks. I have been trying for like 2 years to crack in, like 3 years to crack into the bourse, and it is a friggin' effort to try and get small groups to do that. I can only imagine it must be the same trying to get a new senator in the West Coast.
It's quite, as a proxy, it's very daunting to think about like how you're going to like accumulate wealth not just once but frequently, and it's not like the bourse like if you do get a seat you can sell and earn profit. That's gone, and then it's a restart every year. So like making those connections and finding a way to earn money alongside Senate game is just adds another part to it for me.
We've got a question here that's what might be quite a nice fun one. Hopefully chat can hear me. Let's find out. What advice would you give a brand new LARP baby, Empire will be there first, who's interested in Senate?
Ooh, I like this one.
Yeah.
Go on.
This one.
My advice would be come to Senate. There's a viewing gallery where people who don't have Senate positions can come in, and you can stand in the Senate chamber and you can watch the Senate session from start to finish if you want to. Ask questions. You're not supposed to really talk during Senate, but you'll quickly get a feel for when you can get away with it and can't, and what kind of volume. But before sometimes during and after, ask questions of the people around you, ask questions of your senator, ask questions of the proxies, ask questions of anybody who looks like they know what they're talking about, because if they don't, it will start an argument and it will be fun. And just get a feel for Senate that way. I did it. I loved it.
Rosa?
I consider myself a LOP, an Empire toddler, because I've only been playing for 1 year. E1 last year was my first ever Empire. One thing I would say is, one, if you really, really want to get into the Senate game, bully your local senators, even if they just want you to run errands, then they'll be aware of who you are, and maybe they'll ask you to run errands again. And then there's just talk to people and get that network of knowing people. One of the biggest bits of advice I have is with all people who are looking to obtain hats, is think about what that hat can do for your character and your character's goals, as opposed to thinking of the hat as a goal in and of itself. So, for example, if Sparrow does have ambition to become a senator, she also had ambition to become a proxy senator, she has a list of things that she would like to do and things she would like to achieve with those hats. I think even if you say, okay, I want to get into the Senate game, let me think backwards and think what I want to do if and when I get into the Senate game, that will make the whole thing a lot more enjoyable for you. And I think then it's less about, oh, I'm here, great, now what? And I think that's advice that was given to me as a young LARPer.
I agree. It is the Senate is not the end goal, which it shouldn't be. It should be a stepping stone to achieving something you want to achieve. And that could be something big to, you're wanting to build something in the memory of someone, or, something small. But because once you get senators, then what are you going to do with that? So it's finding the areas of the game that you enjoy and seeing where that takes you. Because you might suddenly realise that you're a fan of the apothecary stuff, and that might lead you a different way. You just, find the bits of the game that you enjoy, and then let that lead you. But yeah, ask questions. Always talk to us, to the big us. The Senate game is open to everyone. If you're unsure about something, ask. There's the what's the phrase? Oh, I'm new to Anvil. There's a lovely code.
Right? I'd like to add one caveat. If you ask questions of the senators or proxies, they all have agendas. They will tell you a version of the truth that fits their agenda, not necessarily 100% empirical truth.
Importantly, that's not exclusive to senators and proxies.
Yeah, everyone has, or at least should have an agenda.
So, Jason?
My advice kind of aligns with Rosa. Think of what you want to do. If you're absolutely new, go to Senate. Breathe in the world. Figure out get involved with things. Find out what you want to change. So, that should really be your first 1 to 2 completely new to it. But then figure out what it is you want to change. What your goal is, and then the next thing you need to think of is, what do I need to achieve that? As the Cardinal of Ambition says, what do I have? What do I want? How can I use the first to get the second? What hats are needed to get that? Do you need to have that hat? Can you just befriend that hat or get something on that hat to do it? Some of the most impressive stuff that I've seen done has been done by people who don't officially have hats. And there are also a lot of positions which have appeared which don't, strictly speaking, have a hat attached, but which definitely are positions. I'm kind of looking at Alison for that one, actually, to a degree. I don't know if there's really an official hat attached with that. So there's lots. So you can kind of make your own hat if need be, if it means getting what you do done. Because ultimately, the advice would be figure out what you want to do, figure out who can help you do that, and then worm your way into their confidence. Make them yours.
Boss.
all before.
I think it's just worth mentioning, if there are new LARP babies, hat means imperial title. We'll use it, throwing fucking terminology around here. And on that as well, I think completely agree with what everyone said, and breathing in the world. But I think something that was largely important for me, that got me a sense of the Senate game, was talking to your nation as well. It's very good to ask questions to your senators and even their proxies and get agendas, but speaking to just the nation and finding oh, I'm interested in this, and someone will hear that and be like, oh, well, that's funny because I'm wanting to push this, and then they'll discuss with you, and you get that idea of the game away from the Senate floor that we were speaking about earlier, and it might, again, you might get interested in that, what's behind the things. Perhaps you don't want to go to the floor, you want to do some legwork and then push it onto a proxy or however. But yeah, kind of remembering that your nation, because you need to have a good relationship, or at least a relationship with your nation, to be able to do the game if you are interested in it.
Okay. So Pagos.
I'm going to take a slightly different tack with this and say, if you are a new LARPer, or even if you're just new to Empire and you decide that you want to try out Senate and you don't enjoy it, there's no shame in that. There's no shame in deciding that you don't like this part of the game and you want to do something different. You're there to have fun. If you misjudged what you were going to like, that's okay.
Yep.
Yeah, there's no shame in that.
100%.
But
and
if you don't like it, don't do it. It's that simple.
Same with meetings. If you guys like a meeting,
I thought I'd love Conclave.
Why?
You thought you'd love Conclave?
I love Conclave as long as I'm sitting down.
I thought I'd love Conclave. And then I went to Conclave.
There's no shame.
I really enjoy Conclave on the rare occasions I get there.
Yeah.
I am 100% glad that I cannot go into Conclave because I've not spent that XP, and I will never spend that XP on this character.
The only time I've only heard stories about Conclave, including being sat in Gin Club, the you promise best Gin Club in the game, is being sat there, and someone was running in every hour to tell us that Conclave was still going on, and going, it's been 5 hours.
Yeah.
And the rest of us sat there going,
that's Conclave.
Why? But it's the name of the game. And
if you're really enterprising, set up a stall, sell baked goods
or beer.
That's a really good idea.
It's been done.
Sell drinks, sell food, sell mana.
That is one of the reasons
sell
I think...
mana.
Sell mana outside Conclave. That's...
Oh, I do that already.
Genius.
The fact that Conclave could go on for hours is... Nah, I can't do that. The longest Senate session I've been in has been 1 hour and 50 minutes.
Yeah, I was watching that one, I think.
That was a bit of a slog.
Yeah.
But
we don't have seats.
What's wrong?
I think if we had seats, it would go on as long as Conclave. So...
Conclave don't have seats either, though. People have to bring their own.
Do they?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. There's some seats in Senate. There's a couple of benches, but then people have to bring their own or stand.
Why would they go to why do people go to Conclave? I will never understand.
Because they like it. Some people do.
For the lot
in politics.
There's probably some mages going, oh, why do some people go to Senate? I'll never understand it. There's another stream on another Twitch channel at the moment. Go ahead.
Yeah, and just for
the thing is that we're right and they're wrong.
Yeah. So just for the lot babies, very loosely, very simply, Conclave is boring magic politics.
Yeah. It's not even real politics.
Oh my god. Can I just read a story that someone's put in chat about Conclave?
Oh, go on, Kat.
Okay, so someone said, it's Wormnave has said, the one time I went to Conclave, it was my first event and it dragged on like hell. I was blitzed out of my mind on Marcher Cider reading the oath rite because I couldn't hear people talking. I bailed and then heard that right after I left, the thrice cursed court cast weakness on everyone there. The sad thing is that getting this cast on them was probably the highlight of the night.
Actually, the only time I wished I could go to Conclave was when the spiders turned up.
Oh, I would love to meet spiders.
I missed spiders, but the 2 times I've turned up to Conclave after my first times where I tried it and then decided no was one Shark O'Clock, where the Archmage of Spring tried to parley with Shaka and was impaled 16 times by a shark-headed herald. And the second time was when I was up for possibly being declared a sorcerer due to some rituals we'd.
And just one thing, just to pick on a question that came up earlier, which is now segue. Do people bring drink into Senate, Ross?
Yes.
My answer to that is no. I drink it beforehand, and a lot of it.
I was on the Senate floor hungover, and I got bullied by the Senator Varushkan for it, which I think is a bit rich because Belakov does also on occasion attend Senate hungover.
Well, there's some. It's the Senator for Handmark. I don't know who he is, OC, but he comes in and he sells alcohol to people on the floor.
His artisanal beer is.
Yeah. And last time I was actually on the floor at the last event. Cesare, played by my lovely friend Jer, was sitting down in Senate, and I came over and I was like whispering to him in between motions coming up, and he was like, "Come here, I'm sloshed," and I was like, "Oh, no."
That was a Senate session.
I was there for that. I remember him doing that.
Myself, Cesare, and Andronicus drank 3 bottles of red wine within the first half hour of Senate, and then I sent another lovely Durondolio folk to go buy me another bottle of wine.
Yeah, I remember you doing that because you were saying to Cesare that you'd done that, and he was just laughing, and I was standing in between you like, I am the most sober person here. Why does this always happen to me?
Cesare is a bad influence on me. I'm normally a very good boy, but whenever I'm on the Senate floor with him, we end up giggling like school kids at the back, trying to avoid getting shouted at by John.
There was a whole Senate session where me and Cesare were sitting on a bench behind someone who was standing, and we were looking. It was a Wintermark with those really cool coats, like with the painting on them and stuff. And us being shits, we were mocking the painting. We were being so shitty. I felt bad about it, but he was drunk, and I'm a monster, I see.
So as chat can see, it's a very serious and important game, and we take a...
Yes.
Momentous decisions made.
Fate of the Empire.
Yes.
Drunk.
Yeah, as much as you joke about it, that horrible time where I was very, very drunk in Senate, I've never been more confident asking questions in my life. Like as soon as I had one in my head, I was like,
I remember that.
Right, right.
I remember it was great.
It was.
So what was it?
I'm in dress in black, like I am very special.
Yeah, I think I can't remember who it was. The scene was like when John and Mead came in. He grabbed me. He's like, "Sober up now, please." I was like, "Oh God."
It was about 5 minutes before the Senate session on a I think it was probably a bit more. It was like between 20 and 10 minutes, and I was like, okay, it's between 20 and 10 minutes before Senate starts. I'm pretty sure that if one of them wanted me to stand in for them, they would have asked. So it's okay. I will go and take Goose Whisper with my friends.
Oh dear.
And so I did. And then Yulia pops up and was like, I'm going to need you to stand in for me. And I'm, oh no. But luckily, because Yulia's a machine, she was like, no, I'm just going to nip to Conclave and then nip back to Senate. And I didn't need to. But the panic of, I'm just going to have to sober up so quickly.
So, and Rosa, just for the lot, babies, would like to explain what Goose Whisper is?
Goose Whisper is a drug. It's a legal drug. I think it's legal.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
it is legal, and it makes you
That's what it
hallucinate. And I
yeah,
think
can you also explain what peck is?
I don't know what peck is.
Oh, does anyone else know what peck is? Peck is what happens when you cut Goose Whisper with bite.
Oh, for goodness sake.
Get laid.
Great.
Is this a league thing that we're too poor to understand?
Right, hang on, we got to stop the stream now. You're giving people ideas.
Oh, no. I have better cocktails than that in the field. Don't worry.
Good to know.
Nice plug.
So we've got quite a few Lineaged players, haven't we?
When you combine Goose Whisper, Realm's Root, and Bite.
Nope.
I think that's called an insta-death. I think that's an insta-death. That's when a ref appears behind you and goes, you are on 0 hit points. lie down on the ground.
But
you also need to put, if you put Lao in, then it becomes the Night Eternal Surprise.
Oh no.
Is that what happened to
Was
Elizabeth?
invented-
Where she went
We
running
found
off
it!
into the night?
Yeah, that's what happened. One of my guild invented that particular cocktail of drugs for a Night Herald who wanted a new experience.
Oh no.
So as you can see, Empire was a lovely, wholesome game.
Yeah.
So it's a good question.
Family friendly.
Yeah. So who here's Lineaged?
Jason's also lineaged, but his camera's lagging.
Do you want to have a little?
Oh, yes, I'm also lineage, but my camera's lagging.
No, I'm not lineaged. I'm a normal person.
Yeah. High five, being normal. Both sides. So, because we got a few LARP newbies in the chat, does anyone want to talk about what being lineage means and what it is like? What playing your particular lineage?
Depends on where you are.
Lineage is my favourite thing.
Oh, yeah.
Rosa can feel the Briar one.
Go with.
Yeah, lineage is my absolute favourite thing. This is something that Sparrow dives in. It's my favourite thing. Lineage basically is if you're a spicy human. It means it basically means that one of the realms of magic has got into your blood somehow. It varies from lineage to lineage, and it basically means that you have a certain they're called trappings. It basically makes you a little bit different. It affects your appearance, and it affects sometimes the way that you act. So my character, Sparrow, is a Briar. She's very proud of being a Briar. And I am very funny. Sorry, I'm just checking chat. I'm hilarious, sorry. She's a Briar, which means that she has spring magic in her blood. In my headcanon, her mum had an affair with a herald of the spring realm, and that's how she got it. But it means that she is covered in bark, so when she gets an injury, instead of it sort of scabbing over the way it would on a normal person, it becomes sort of bark. So she's got 2 bits of bark here and here. Being a Briar also makes you very impulsive, very direct. You're sort of filled with energy, and it's objectively speaking the best lineage. And the thing is lineage is a fun thing to play with because depending on your nation, it differs from nation to nation, but different nations can have different opinions on different lineages. Briars tend to be sort of looked down on by certain nations for various plethora of reasons. And it's worse in some nations than it is in others. So Navarr and Highguard
And the Marchers.
And the Marchers,
The Marchers treat Briars like fucking shit.
Oh,
As
absolutely.
the old Marcher saying goes, you know what we call briars in their part of the wood? Kindling.
Kindling.
Oh.
Yeah. Honestly, the Marchers make Navarr look like Briar-loving hippies, genuinely. It's impressive.
So and various nations have different opinions on different lineages. I will let the leaguers take this one, but generally I'm aware that Cambions are quite prevalent in the league and stuff like that.
Yeah, so there's a belief, not that widespread, not that loudly held, but there's a general belief in the league that Cambions are super political, and Briars don't really have the attention span for convoluted, intelligent political schemes. They're considered too straightforward and direct. But that's not something I've seen played a massive amount. It's not a huge part of our national character. It's one of those kind of optional extras in a way.
You say that. There are a lot of our politicians are Cambions, though. So I'd say that, like, by virtue of who kind of goes for and tends to get the big seats, it's sort of that's kind of managed to become in a subtle way that's played out. We also don't tend to have a lot of Briars in the league player population as well. So if any, so again, like maybe that hints towards them moving away. And to give an example of a different lineage, I play a Draugr. So if I just pop my cam off for a moment, so you can see my handy little image that I'm sure will show up at some point. You'll see that in addition to the ludicrous, maybe, who knows, in addition to the ludicrous amount of bling that I wear, I'm also very pale white. I've got big black sort of bags around my eyes, and that's kind of because corruption, if you're high guard, from the realm of winter results in role-playing effects that tend to for players to go towards extreme practicality. They tend to not be terribly. I wouldn't say they're not emotional. They're not. That's Merrow's more, but they're not. They're not big on compassion. They're not big on sentimentality. So one of my favorite moments of that was a Briar friend of pragmatic. Yes, I saw a Briar friend of mine was asked by a pair of Draugr working at the hospital to be their bedside manner person because they just didn't have any. They were Uras and Draugr as well, so it was like extra. Just
nothing.
We don't know we do not know how to emotion. But it's worth noting all of the lineages have optional. You can go insane with lineage madness. So Briars can just stop caring about the rules of society. And just do whatever they want. Draugrs go paranoid. We just go completely paranoid. And that's something to play.
Cambions, we're the ones with the horns. We're associated with metals and stuff like that. We are also associated with money and prosperity and other such things. We also, it says in our brief that we like a challenge, and we're very ambitious sorts. I don't know what happens when we go lineage mad off the top of my head. I think we just start hoarding shit, possibly.
You tend to get, I think it's super calculating, super obsessed with spreading your influence. Puppeteering people.
Yeah, you get very, very cold and calculating. That makes sense.
So we won't notice much of a change then.
As a Naga.
I'm gonna kick your ass down the field when we get here, Martin.
It's been so long since I've annoyed you. This is as close I can get.
As a Naga for the lineage, I find it so much fun. It's all about. I think it lends itself so well to Senate in terms of that role play because it's all about like secrets and mystery and manipulation and cunning, which OC I don't actually have that much of, so it's quite a challenge for me. I'm too like blunt and direct. But like again, like the perfect example is Varys in Game of Thrones and like Littlefinger, and it comes back to that like character I wanted to play. And but the thing that got me most about Naga is that they like to be comfortable. And it's just so much fun having a conversation with someone and just sitting down halfway through, just like spring across the grass, being like, "Yeah, no, you're saying I'm just gonna." I have an ambition to deliver a Senate motion in a beanbag, just like throw it on the floor and just lay down. Like, all right, everyone, listen up.
Jonah Mead will throw you out.
I'll get him one as well, though. It'll be fine. Get down.
I want that so bad.
Oh, it would be so good, but
like,
okay,
I'm not gonna
now
lie.
You need to become the Empress so you can put that beanbag on the throne.
Yes.
Like
one of the things I'm looking forward to my next character is playing someone that can stop moving for more than like 2 minutes at a time. Because like Rosa, I also play a Briar, so I'm very conscious that I should always be moving. Even when I'm standing still, I'm usually moving backwards and forwards between my feet to have that kind of sense of constantly in motion, which when you're up and about the field for 14, 15, 16, 18 hours can take it out of you a little bit.
Oh my god, yeah. It's ridiculous. I've taken to bringing energy drinks to Empire to just sort of get that Briar pep. I find this is why I say Briars are the best lineage, because I'm naturally very I overthink things loads, and I'm naturally very paranoid about what people think of me, and I'll like overanalyze all of my actions. But because of her Briar lineage, Sparrow doesn't do that. And it's really freeing to just be like, oh god, this meeting's so boring, I'm just gonna leave. Or God, this person's being a dick and I disagree with them. Oh, I can just say that. Like, that's great, because Sparrow doesn't care. And Sparrow's direct. And if Sparrow thinks you're being a dick, she'll tell you. And it's very freeing to be able to roleplay that kind of character and have an excuse to sort of be that uninhibited. It's really great.
Whereas me as a Cambion, I'm more of a shit about it. If I think someone's being a dick, I'll go, and then as soon as I'm out of earshot, I'll say to the closest person, they're an asshole, and then walk off.
Sorry, someone just said I seemed lovely, and my heart is melting. Sorry.
Like, I play Adric as James with no filters. So it's like, well, like normally when somebody says something silly, Matt, James thinks it but doesn't vocalize it. Adric just nope, out there for good or ill, often ill, but you know.
I keep a vengeance list. Just if you run me, there is a list. It's actually part of the league brief. It's not vengeance. Reckoning is not vengeance.
Correct. It's a function of prosperity and loyalty.
Prosperity and loyalty, and I definitely have not ever had spontaneous vengeance auras appear around me. But yeah, no, like we do. Like it really fits into the Draugr brief to have just like a list, and eventually, like I will come back to this. I can work with you for now because there are more important things. But one day, son, you gonna get, and Twitch rules on swearing.
So there is. Where's it gone? So that's answer a serious question, and I cannot find who asked it. So sorry, chat. Senate versus military council. How does it? How do the two work together? And what's the purpose? What's the individual purposes of the two? Go on, Matt.
So obviously, as a member of Senate, you're not legally permitted to be in military council when military council in session. So there is a bit of a hard divide, but at the same time, the senators elect the generals. So the generals always have to have half a mind on, I need to be re-elected by these senators, which means I need to be making them feel like I'm doing a good job. And part of that is keeping them briefed so they know what's going on in the military side of things. So it varies from general to senator to senator. About how much and how strong that interaction is, but it needs to be there.
Yeah, like I think
afford to have spies.
Yeah, for that you definitely need some form of communication with people in military council because it is going to affect Senate. So you either need to have a good line of communication between you and your generals, or you need spies.
Thanks. Someone, thanks, Kai. Whoever Kai flagged it. I'm not going to pronounce that.
I think a big thing between the military council and Senate is if the military council had their way, we'd spend the entirety of our Senate budget on military matters. A few generals have said that to me. So there's a play that they want us to fund them as much as we can, but we need to be building stuff and funding the other things in the empire. So there's a definite balance between what we spend internally and what we spend on military matters, and that does cause a fair bit of contention.
We're playing a game of guns and butter.
Yeah.
Martin, you're muted.
All right.
So the question that Martin was asking us all is a one-word answer on your views on what the throne the campaign for the throne, Martin, specifically the current one. Yeah, cool.
For that, I see a Rosie.
Yeah, because there's a difference.
Okay.
Messy but entertaining.
Super interesting.
closer than a lot of people realize.
Oh, that's what I was going to say. Got to think of something else now.
Messy.
Vote Yulia.
OOC!
Vote Yulia!
Dan Brackensong has the best song, though.
Do you want to sing it for us?
Yeah. Okay. Don't expect it to be done in a year of gameplay.
No.
Yeah, I was talking to some people about that. Just like, how long is this going to take, do you think? And now with the events being delayed, it's going to take even longer. So,
did someone ask for me to sing that that song?
Yes.
Okay. Do you want me to? It's the only bit of Dan Brackensong propaganda I will give. So. I can't do the guitar, but there you'll sometimes hear this echoing chorus through the Navarr of Dan Brackensong for Empress, and then imagine guitar. Ding, 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 ding. It's catchy.
I'm sure you had to be that.
Trust me, if you were there, you couldn't avoid it.
No, you couldn't.
So, thanks so much for your time, guys. I really appreciate your time. And luckily, nothing caught on fire this time.
Yay! Nice work, Martin.
I would like to think that this is probably a sign that the Eternals and whatever virtue you believe in thinks that the Proxies are better than Senators.
I think that's
given the current evidence, I think that's a given.
So, before we go, has anyone got anything they'd like to share?
Just to say really quickly to anybody, if you are interested in any aspect of Senate or the Empire in general, I love answering questions in character. So if you see me wandering past, just grab me and ask. I'll be totally happy to help.
I'll say that I made sure that I logged pretty much every single question that came up in this stream and the previous one in a document.
Thanks so much, Kat, for helping moderate. I really appreciate it.
And so basically the plan is, since we did not answer all of them, not even close, I think the plan is that we do this again at some point.
And hopefully it'll work.
Yes, and hopefully we will have ironed out the technical things. So stay tuned for that. We'll announce it on like the Facebook page and stuff.
Rosa, for anything you'd like to share?
Not really relevant, but the University of Birmingham LARP Society is objectively the best LARP society in the country. And
Hype up the chatter, you're from Birmingham.
You use this word objectively a lot. I do not think it means what you think it means.
Because I have a great grasp of the objective, and thus I can speak only objective truths.
I see.
And the fact that I'm chair of that society has absolutely nothing to do with it.
No, of course not.
James, have you got anything you'd like to share?
Can I pimp the LARP that I help run?
Of course.
Oh, do it.
I'm
involved with that too.
So I'm a player and one of the rules ref for a Warhammer 40k 1000 Rogue Trader LARP that primarily plays in Scotland, but we're planning at least one event south of the border as much as possible. It's called No Rest for the Wicked. We are a lovely bunch of people. Feel free to drop through the Facebook group. If you just search for No Rest for the Wicked, you'll find us. Because we'd like more players, so you'd be better.
Do you mind?
Hi crew, and I'm going to be playing soon. It's dead fun.
Do you mind bunging a link or something in the chat for us?
Yes, I shall.
Well, so have you got anything you'd like to plug?
We can't put links in stream chat, unfortunately.
Send it to me. And
I could do it to the group. Yeah.
Plug it somewhere and I'll put it in the chat.
Yeah, on the topic of plug-in systems, my brother and I, he's also in the Freeborn, his name's Stuart, we are hopefully going to be running a game. It's been postponed because of COVID, but it's called Enter the Game, which is more of a video game type LARP. It'll be run through iLARP, that run down the site in Eversley. If you know them, also Kitty and Johnny have really helped us out with that. So when we get more finalised details, I'll plug that a bit more and get some interest in that. But I also just want to say a shout out to Kai, who we answered one of his questions earlier. He's in the he's been in the chat and watching. He's actually been stuck in Morocco because of the pandemic for a very long time. He's traveling the world and he still made an effort to come to the stream and show support. So just big love to you, Kai.
Thanks so much, Kai. That's great to hear. Well, hopefully we'll get back soon. Jason, have you got anything you'd like to share?
Yes. So two things, if you let me. Firstly,
course.
within Empire, if you see me and you are a new player and you want some plot, look for the banker in gold and blue. I usually have something I will to give to you. Secondly, completely unrelated to Empire but related to fantasy, I am the dungeon master and host of a podcast, Flintlocks and Fireballs. It's a 5th edition Dungeons and Dragons actual play podcast. There's a very nice thing which has appeared in chat, set in a Napoleonic setting. We are coming up to 99 episodes now, so we release weekly. Please do go check it out. There are also some lovely little love letters to Empire itself written into it.
And I am actually listening to it, and it is really, really good. And it's really pick upable as well. So I would recommend it.
It's on my list.
There was what was the name? Flintlocks and Fireballs.
Yes, the link's in the chat. So I've got a few things. First of all, thank you to Kat for helping moderate and keeping me sane by sending me gifts on the chat when I was going mad. Thanks to PD for making this game, because it keeps us weirdly sane despite we get stressed out 4 times a year. I would also like to thank the photographers, because the photos you've seen on the stream are being from if I can spell things properly, are from a collection of lovely photographers. So if I can spell things properly. So I would recommend, if you are interested in LARP and in Empire, look out for the Empire LARP photo forum and have a look at some of the fantastic art, the photos rather, that have been taken of the game. And if that doesn't make you want to come, nothing will. I would also going to plug a couple of quick things. One, including the lovely Anna Reid is going to be doing a Pocket Theory Q&A at 2:00 on Sunday on her feed. So definitely check that out. I'll be there because I'm one of the weird people who like mixing herbs. She's also the person who does the audio narrations for the Winds and Fortune and Winds War, which are the information that PD produce. I would highly recommend having a look at that YouTube channel and checking out some of the audio work, because we've got some great people out there. And I'm going to jump on the D&D bandwagon and say a lovely friend of mine, Vicky Hawley, has just started her own D&D stream called Vicky's World, and the lovely backwards work. But I would recommend it's on Thursdays at 7:00 at Vicky's World RPG on Twitch. I think that's everything for me. I will put a link on the chat later. Any final thoughts, guys?
Furthermore, the Druids must be destroyed.
Furthermore, the Druids must be destroyed.
Sam's not here. I have to fill in for him.
Well,
just wanted to say thanks so much for doing this, Martin.
Yeah.
I was going to say.
Yeah, thank you for
organising it.
Martin.
Hopefully there'll be more, and
Thank you
hopefully
for
they'll
having
work.
us.
Finally, I've managed to get a load of senators in one room. It's never going to happen again.
No.